Welcome to Undercomplicating Stuff, where we, two psychologists and coaches with over 40 years of combined experience, share our insights to help undercomplicate important topics. A friendly reminder that this video is meant for conversational and entertainment purposes only. Please see the information section of this video for additional resources. Dr. Gedeon, introduce yourself.
Thanks, Julie. I'm Stacey Gedeon. I'm a health psychologist and the founder and CEO of a healthcare consulting and professional coaching business. And how about you, Dr. Radico?
I'm Dr. Julie Radico. I'm a psychologist, a coach, an author, and a speaker. And today our question is, what is people pleasing and why do we do it? This is such a great question. Like, what is people pleasing? And I imagine most people have heard of, oh, like they're a people pleaser. And so as we start to like really think about this and define it, some of the things that come to mind are putting your needs behind those of the people around you. So, like, you're putting others first when maybe it's for reasons that you're giving in on things that you really do find important, but you want to keep the peace. You want to not ruffle feathers. You're more prone to feel comfortable letting others get what they want, even if it's not exactly what you want, but just so people feel okay. So people are happy, or so nobody's fighting, or so everybody's getting along. So if you're really putting your needs behind others, that might be a sign that you're falling into this people pleasing kind of scenario. A question you might ask yourself if you're thinking about, well, I do like to compromise. I do like to cater to the needs of others and consider others' feelings. Like, those are good things to do, right? If you're trying to then see, like, where do I fall on the spectrum of, is this helpful and healthy for me, or is this gone into the realm where it's not super healthy, or I feel like I'm giving more than I need to or want to? Ask yourself some questions, and I'll start us off. One of them might be, would it be hard for me to choose what I want to do, or what I prefer to do, or the action I'd prefer to take if somebody else is voicing strongly that they want to do something different? Would I struggle to advocate for my choice to be heard or considered in a situation like that?
I think most of us at some time or another people please. And when the stakes are low and it doesn't really matter about something, okay, that's okay. But when you're finding that you are agreeing to do something for someone, and maybe afterwards you notice that you're resentful or angry that you're doing that, that might also be a sign that you're sort of going to the end of people pleasing too much. And keep it in mind that we're not talking about kindness or cooperation. Those are choices that we make. People pleasing, when it becomes an extreme, is driven by usually fear, discomfort, anxiety, and not necessarily physical safety fear. It may be something that came from your childhood and growing up, where your role in the family was to people please and to kind of calm everything down and oil the gears and make sure that people's needs were met before your own. And another thing you can ask yourself is, am I saying, yes, it's fine, when again, it's really not deep down inside? That may be an indication that you are people pleasing. Taking on extra work so other people won't be upset. That can also be a sign that you are people pleasing. Maybe you're at work and you stay quiet in meetings, and we'll assume there's psychological safety in the meeting. So that's a different topic. But you're feeling like, oh, I don't want that person's ideas to get quashed. I'm just not going to speak up at all, even if you're feeling like your idea really has a lot of value to it.
Are you putting yourself second or third or fourth in a situation where you have something to contribute? Specifically, just because you don't want to ruffle feathers, or you feel like it's not, it's a safe environment. So there's psychological safety, like you could raise an opinion, because that's a different scenario as Stacey was talking about, but that you still feel like you've learned or created these habits or beliefs that you carry with you that you shouldn't speak up. Like it's better to keep the peace. It's better not to tell that person, "Oh, well, what they said actually didn't make sense, but I'll just deal with it on my own. I'll just take care of it later. They don't have to worry about it." But what happens then is they lose that learning opportunity and um, a really important question that can come from a pattern of people pleasing and something to ask yourself, an important question here is, have you noticed that people don't even ask your opinion anymore? If you are trying to keep the peace so much, and it could come from exactly what Stacey's talking about. Maybe you grew up and you were one of, many kids, or there was discord between your parental figures, and like you ended up keeping the peace. Like you were the one who they communicated through, or you were the one who wrangled all the other kids and got the kids to be, like somewhat all together, but you compromised and the youngest sibling was crying and you're like, here, you have my ice cream. So you just like, like you were giving of yourself in ways repeatedly that maybe whether you recognize it or not, but something to ask yourself is really like, am I now in a situation in any of my relationships where people don't even come to me to ask for my opinion? They might like assume that I'm going to do things for them. They might come and be like, oh, somebody's got to organize Thanksgiving. You know, Julie will take care of that. That might be a sign in a way, but that could be a sign of lots of other things too. It could just be you're the best cook and everybody loves it. And, like it's not necessarily a nefarious thing. However, if there are big decisions that need to be made and you're not even being considered in them, it might be a result of peacekeeping for so long that people just fall into these roles where they're like, oh, I didn't even think that I needed to consider Julie's opinion in that. I just knew she would be fine with whatever we decided. That might be true, and that might not be true. You really are missing out on opportunities then to advocate for yourself or to share your wisdom because you probably have seen and grown a lot from peacekeeping. Like you probably pick up a lot of signals and see patterns that others might not. And so everybody in that scenario is missing out in some kind of way if you're not even being considered to share your thoughts or your opinions.
I think that's such an important point. If you're starting to get overlooked because they just know that you will go along with whatever. Another thing that I see quite a bit, and I imagine you do as well, Julie, with therapy clients is, let's say it's a parent and the kids are out of the home, and now the parent can make their own decisions about where to go to eat, what movie to watch, what they want to do on the weekend. And I'll have clients in front of me that will have no idea. They've never even thought about what they wanted because they were so used to people pleasing. And of course, when kids are young, there's obviously that's a different situation. But be mindful and maybe even ask yourself now, okay, if it were my choice this weekend of what movie to see or where to go out to eat, do I have an opinion? What would I want to do? And maybe you're not comfortable voicing it yet, but the first step can be, okay, if it were up to me, which it is, if it were up to me to have my opinion and have it be known, what would that even be? And then you can go from there and practice some other strategies. You can coach yourself, reminding yourself this isn't selfish. This is self care. You can practice the assertiveness that would come along with boundary setting. We have videos on that and how assertiveness is not aggressiveness, reminding yourself that your needs matter just as much as everybody else's, and perhaps even slowing down before you respond. So if somebody comes to you, let's say with a request, and in your gut you're thinking, no, 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 but your head's starting to say, yes, let them know that you'll get back with them in a little bit. Buy yourself some time until you can really sort out, is this something you want to do, or is it something that you want to say no to?
Those are some great strategies. Like boundary setting is so important, especially when we realize that we've fallen into patterns that are really not healthy for us or make us feel like we're not appreciated for all of the things that we could contribute. And I would add, ask those around you to support you in not having to be the peacekeeper. So if you know that there's a growth curve that you're going to have with this, where and let's use the example of where do you go to dinner? Like if you have the scenario where you're like, oh, I can never decide, or nobody ever asks me, they just tell me where we're going, or like to when you're not hungry, when you're not in that like, oh, now we're getting hangry situation, but in a, you just had a meal and you're sitting there in the after, full and happy kind of moment and having a conversation to say, hey, I've noticed we've got this pattern where I have a hard time making a decision about where we go to eat, even when you give me choices, you narrow it down. And I know that that frustrates both of us. How about in the future, I'm going to try to be the one who comes up with the ideas of where we go and you choose, or I'm going to rank where I'd like to go and then you rank where you'd like to go. And let's see if we can pick, even if we end up at our third choice, like if whatever one matches, or to give me some grace and to really like gently nudge me to go, nope, here are the two choices. Which one of these do you want to go to? And to give me some time to just sit with that discomfort that I might feel, but to then go, okay, I'm gonna pick and that you're on board with that. Whatever you want to do, but come up with a scenario or strategies, problem solve to come up with these ways of navigating the people pleasing. Because I am sure there are people listening who go, yeah, this is me. I'm a people pleaser. I'm a peacekeeper. I fall into these traps. There are also people listening who are on the other side. You've got a wonderful person or persons in your life who you're like, "Oh yeah, they're just peacekeeping, they're people pleasing, and I genuinely don't know if they ever tell me what they're actually thinking. And I don't know if they think that I'm a jerk when I go, "Okay, well, we'll just go here." Or I don't know how I could really support them in advocating more for themselves. So have those conversations because they're really important and the people in your life will likely, we can't speak in 100% because there's a lot of nuance in these situations and you want to have the conversations with people who you feel safe to do so with, but those people in your life who you can feel vulnerable with and say, hey, I noticed this pattern I've got and I think it might frustrate both of us. Like, let's work on this, let's see if we can come up with, maybe they're funny strategies that we come up with where if they don't work or we fall back into our habits, like we can easily laugh about it and in the way of taking some of that pressure off because it's still important and your opinions are valid and you want to have good communication and relationships of no matter who you are in the scenario, which side of the people pleaser or the, person who is nudging that people pleaser. So really come up with ways to communicate and with strategies that help you not feel like the answer to the problem is always to just cave in.
Such good points. And you talked about the frustration that both sides can feel. And I think there are some people pleasers who really, truly are trying to be super helpful. And maybe it's a guest in your home and they don't want to be a burden and create more difficulty. And so they are game for anything. And sometimes that's really helpful. And at other times, it then puts more pressure on the other person to come up with the decisions, come up with the game plan. And so while the people pleaser may think, well, I'm just being super helpful and I'm going with the flow, you might accidentally be creating more stress for the host or the other person who now feels like they are responsible for your entire visit and you're not having any strong feelings about anything or even mild feelings. So keep that in mind as well. If you notice that you're doing that, that you may not be as helpful as you think you're being. One thing that stands out to me is something you mentioned earlier, coping strategies, survival strategies that we develop throughout our lives to help us get through difficult situations, home environments, whatever it might be. Oftentimes, as adults, they've outgrown their usefulness. They're no longer helpful. And so, in the past, if people pleasing and blending in and not having an opinion and not standing out was beneficial because then you weren't the target of something, let's say, as an adult, identifying that that could now actually be costing you in terms of your relationships, and in other ways in terms of your own happiness and well-being and really understanding who you are.
My takeaway is that the people in your life who care about you, who love you, who value you will likely still love and care and value you, even if you push back a little or advocate for what you really want or speak your mind when you disagree. If you are somebody who is very much a peacekeeper and then you're like, you know what? I really don't want to do that thing. I'm going to tell people I'm happy for you all to go do that thing, and I'll do this instead and meet up with you after. That'll be okay. Like, it's okay for you to advocate for yourself. And it can be hard to do so because sometimes it's not as easy as like, oh, we can meet up afterwards. Maybe it's a big decision that you just are on the other side of. And sometimes you still might come to a place where you're like, you know what, the best thing, the healthiest thing was for me to compromise here and to keep the peace. The thing that I would encourage you to think about is, did you do the thoughtful work to recognize where you truly landed on the issue, what you felt was your honest, genuine opinion, and that you felt like you could express it in some way? That the people in your life who care about you will hopefully, and especially if you let them know that's what you're trying to build up to do, give you space to do that exploring, do that space to learn about yourself, that space to get things wrong, to be creative, to, so like be kind to yourself and that you don't have to have all the right things to say, but give yourself space to not always have to just keep the peace, to voice your opinions and your thoughts because they're valid and the world is a better place if people are able to generously and kindly receive the thoughts from other people who are coming in a authentic way of saying, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking and this is what I think would be healthy for the group or for me," or like that is good stuff to communicate about. So, if this topic resonated with you, please share it with somebody that you care about. Also, please comment, like, and subscribe. You can message us on YouTube or LinkedIn with suggestions of questions that you'd like us to discuss in future episodes.